Some crashes are a mystery. No one really knows what happened and how. And then there are those where everything is caught on camera. Photos, videos, even rescue footage. And yet, how it happened is still a mystery. This crash was one of those. It happened in the infamous Kallar Kahar zone of the M2 motorway, one of the most dangerous stretches of motorway in the country. Crashes here aren't exactly rare, but this one really stood out. Not because it was any different, but because the CCTV footage went viral. The videos of the aftermath of the crash also went viral. And the story was all over the media.
कलर कहार सॉल्ट रेंज के करीब एक और खूनी हादसा। मोटरवे पर मुसाफिर बस ब्रेक फेल होने से उलट गई।
कलर कहार के करीब हादसा पेश आया है। हादसे में बताया जा रहा है ये हादसा सॉल्ट रेंज के करीब।
The police and the media initially pinned it on brake failure.
मोटरवे पर मुसाफिर बस ब्रेक फेल होने से उलट गई।
But the Vehicle Inspection Department at the Ministry of Transport pointed towards other lapses, such as tire failure and overspeeding. As public pressure grew and the story became harder to unravel, the government once again called the ADCR team to dig out the facts. The team knew the routine and immediately got to work, starting with the road survey. There were certain tire marks on the road for sure, but they could have either been from braking or turning sharply. Now that had to be determined. Since the initial reports pointed at brake failure, the team began inspecting the brakes. Most buses use two types of braking systems: hydraulic brakes, which use oil, and air brakes, which use compressed air. In this particular case, the brake pedal was working fine, creating proper pressure. The brake booster and the master cylinder were also checked and found in perfect working condition. But when the team looked under the bus, they saw something odd. Brake oil was leaking from both front wheels. This was indeed brake failure. Case closed. But wait a minute, how did brake oil started leaking from both wheels simultaneously? If there had to be a failure, the chances are it had to be on one wheel at one time. It's very, very unlikely that two systems failed together. And then there was something more suspicious. The oil had dripped straight down, not sprattered circumferentially as it would have been if the tire had been rotating while the oil was leaking. That meant that this leakage probably happened after the crash while the bus was stationary. And here's the kicker. This bus has air brakes. There shouldn't have been any oil in the system at all. So where did this oil come from? Turns out someone had poured oil after the crash just to make this look like brake failure. And whoever did it wasn't very smart because he left the bottle at the spot, which probably had fingerprints on it. Next, the team turned their attention to the tires. If a tire blows before a crash, it shows a different pattern. And if it does during a crash, it shows a different pattern. Based on the condition of this tire, the rear right tire had blown out. And it had a signature pattern of a blowout that occurred before the crash. Was this the cause of the crash then? Luckily, there was a video recorded by a passenger in the car coming from the opposite side. And in that footage, while observing this footage in slow motion, a tire blowout can be seen just seconds before the crash. So yes, the tire did burst before the crash, but it wasn't the cause, it was a consequence. So then, this brought the team back to square one. What really caused the crash? Was it speed? One way to estimate speed is by analyzing the curvature of tire marks, specifically steering marks caused by sharp turns at high speed. These can tell very, very accurately how fast a vehicle was going. But in this case, the team had something better: photogrammetry through video footage. By measuring the distance between each fixed object in the footage, like poles or signboards, and the number of frames it took the bus to pass from one point to the other, speed can be easily calculated. On the road where the posted speed is 40 kilometers per hour, this bus was nearly doing 110. That was it. The real cause of the crash was overspeeding and reckless driving. But this wasn't the first crash that happened at this exact spot. This spot is notorious for all the wrong reasons. Just a few months earlier, another bus flipped at the same location exactly the same way and collided with the oncoming vehicle. 14 people died.
बस को कलर कार के करीब हादसा पेश आया है। इस हादसे में बताया
Even while this investigation was ongoing, yet another crash occurred. This time, it was an oil tanker. So what was it that drivers were overspeeding at this very spot? The motorway police works tirelessly here to prevent crashes like this, day in, day out. They do everything they possibly can and beyond to keep this road safe. Picking up bodies from the roadside is a hard job. It's painful, it's thankless sometimes. And yet they do it. The problem here wasn't just the drivers, it's the road itself. Fundamentally, there are two kinds of highway design on mountains. There's the low impact design, which naturally follows the natural curvatures of the mountains, like the old muddy road, for instance. These low impact roads with turns and blind corners are meant for low speeds and light traffic. And then there's the second kind, high impact highways. They go straight through the mountains. They're expensive, disturb the mountain topology a lot, but they can handle high volume of traffic at high speeds. The Hazara Motorway N35 Pakistan is a very, very good example of a high impact road. Whereas the Kallar Kahar Motorway is a very low impact design for the type and volume of traffic on it. That's the basic mismatch. Talking about this particular point, there's also an issue of the speed camera, which is installed about 1.5 kilometers right before the turn. As soon as careless drivers pass the speed cameras, they speed up. They don't realize that there's a sharp curve ahead, simply because they don't see it. Road engineering guidelines specifically state that you should never place a sharp horizontal turn right after a vertical curve or a crest, because drivers simply cannot see it in time. And when they do, it's too late. And that one design flaw has caused hundreds of lives at this particular point since 1997. And this is the first time in the 27-year-old history of the motorway that a crash at this location was investigated in such details. Before this, all reports simply say brake failure, overspeeding, and that's that. No deep look, no lessons learned, and history repeating itself. And that is particularly why crash investigations are so important. Because unless we know what really happened, we can't fix it. And unless we learn from our mistakes, we're doomed to repeat them. I hope we can fix this mistake this time.